Sit back and listen to this extremely interesting story.
This fictional story involves forced communication between adults, including the main character who took advantage of the situation by pretending to be someone he is not. Please look elsewhere if you don't want to read stories like this. The alarm woke Jen from a nightmare where she was tied to a bench to spend time with strangers. It took a few moments to get over the helplessness she felt at not being able to escape from the men attacking her. Just a dream, Jen told herself as her heart rate began to return to normal. She found herself covered in sweat, and as she threw the blanket back, she realized her body had reacted again. She glanced over at where Stan had been the night before and found his side of the bed empty. She remembered that he had an early flight. Great, I'm so excited, and he had to leave early, she thought as she got out of bed. Looking at the alarm clock again, she realized that she didn't have time to hunker down before work. Groaning, she changed her clothes. She had just enough time to grab a bowl of cereal before entering. The workday passed uneventfully, and Jen dreamed about her nightmare. She didn't know how she ended up blindfolded and tied to a bench. She remembered spending time with a strange man. The dream had been so real. When she and the first guy finished talking, he left and the next guy came up. Remembering the dream, she began to please herself. She was getting closer and closer to the immense pleasure and was almost there when the doorbell rang. Why now, Jen was annoyed. She was so close. Maybe they will go, she thought. As she continued, the bell rang again. Okay, Jen teased again, breaking off and heading for the door. Looking through the peephole, she saw her neighbor Camilla standing in the hall. Come on, Jen. I know you work from home. We need to talk, dear, Camilla said, sensing that Jen was on the other side of the door. Give me a second, Jen told her through the door. I can't let her know what I was doing here, she thought, running into the bathroom and quickly washing her hands. No time to do anything else, Jen slowly walked back to the door. Taking a deep breath, she put on a happy face and opened the door. What's up, Camilla? Even as Jen said the words, she realized her tone conveyed annoyance. Don't use that tone with me. I've done nothing to deserve that from you, Camilla said, annoyed. Jen took a deep breath. Sorry, Camilla, it's been a stressful day. Camilla looked at her for a few seconds before she answered. Yeah, I can understand that, I guess. Bad day at work. It's just a normal day at work. Stan had to leave early for a meeting, so I guess I am frustrated, but I should not have taken it out on you. Jen said, smiling. It's okay, dear. Can I come in? Sure. Make yourself at home while I log out of work, Jen said, opening the door wider to let Camilla into the apartment. Camilla walked into the living room and sat on the couch looking out the window while Jen returned to her home office and finished her day. A few minutes later, Jen returned to the living room and sat in the chair across from Camilla. I like your couch. It reminds me of some furniture my sister had, Camilla said as her hands ran over the fabric. How do you like the apartment? Camilla asked. It's different. I have always lived in a house, but it no longer made sense with Becky going off to school. I've never had a house, well, not since my mom died. I got knocked up in high school and ended up dropping out. Lived with Donald's dad's family for a while, but it didn't work out between us. Sorry to hear that, Camilla. Is Donald's dad still in the picture? It was off and on for many years, but after the accident, he just disappeared. It's just been the two of us ever since. I can't imagine raising my girls alone, if Stan had left or something had happened to him. Jen trailed off, thinking about how much she depended on her husband. It wasn't easy, but I had no one else to help, so I did my best. The conversation turned into things the kids did when they were little, and an hour had passed in no time. Camilla looked at her phone and stood. Sorry, I have to get my things together and leave for a meeting with a potential new employer. I don't think you ever met Kathy. She was Donald's sitter when I had to run out. She used to live in this apartment before you moved in. Very nice woman. I hope Kathy can come over and watch Donald. I forgot to call her and ask. She pulled out her phone and made a call. "Hi, Kathy, it's Camilla." She said into the phone, "I know it's last minute, but I have an interview downtown and don't have anyone to watch Donald." Camilla listened to the phone for a few minutes. "I understand, Kathy." "No worries. I will call the hiring manager and tell him I can't make it. Yeah, talk soon," Camilla said, ending the call. "I guess I messed this up. I hope Mr. Davis understands that I am missing this interview. He has supported this position and said I could work remotely to help offset the cost." Jen looked at Camilla, wondering if she could help her. She vividly remembered her last encounter with Donald. He made her pleasure him to his great satisfaction. Just thinking about it made her excited. There must be something wrong with me, she thought. No ordinary person will refuse communication against his will. "I don't suppose you would be available to watch Donald for a few hours, would you? I know he can be a handful, but he is a charming kid at heart." Camilla asked Jen, "Well, I don't know if that would be a good idea." Jen told her, "How to tell my mother that her son forced me," she thought. "Did something happen to make you hesitate?" Camilla asked, watching Jen closely. "Okay, here you go, an opening. Just tell Camilla what happened. I am sure she will understand." Jen thought. That thought contradicted how excited she was thinking about the night it happened, and how David had just used her. Jen remembered some of the story Camilla had shared about Donald's first steps and the tragedy of his accident. Looking into Camilla's face and seeing the hope there, Jen just couldn't bring herself to tell her about what had happened. "It's just he is so big." Jen blurted out, realizing that there was more than one meaning to her statement after she said it. "I mean, he is a wonderful kid, but if he got hurt or needed anything, I don't know if I am the right person to help." Jen hastily added before things got any more awkward, "Jen, he isn't going to fall over on you if that is what you are afraid of." Camilla laughed. "Sweetie, just be firm. The boy will do what you tell him." Seeing that Camilla needed someone to help and maybe, if I were firm with him, he would leave me alone, Jen caved. "Okay, when do you need me?" "Oh, thank you so much, sweetie. I have to leave in a few minutes if I am going to make the interview. He said it could take a couple of hours. Do I have time to change at least?" Jen asked. She was wearing yoga pants and a loose shirt. "You look fine, Jen." "Donald is busy watching TV anyways," Camilla said as she hurried down the hall. Jen grabbed her keys and followed her into the apartment. She noticed that Donald was watching TV and lying on the couch, the exact position he had been in last time. "He's wearing the same clothes he wore the night he forced me," Jen thought as she leaned against the door. Camilla grabbed her purse and kissed Donald on his forehead. "You be a good boy for Mrs. Jen. Mama has to run out for a little while." Glancing at Jen, "He ate dinner about 20 minutes ago and should be fine for the rest of the night. If he gets hungry, there are popsicles in the freezer. His favorite color is red." "Okay, good luck with your interview," Jen said as she shut the door. Jen walked over to the love seat and sat across from Donald, pulling her legs up to her chest. She glanced at the TV and noticed it was some older cartoons her kids used to watch. The memory made her smile before she glanced over at Donald. He looked like he was barely awake. "Maybe if I keep quiet, he will fall asleep and stay that way until Camilla gets home," Jen thought, moving around a little bit until she was comfortable. Jen must have fallen asleep because something slapped her face. The next thing she knew, she opened her eyes and looked at Donald. Trying to pull herself up, she realized that there was nowhere for her to go with the pillows behind her head, so she decided to sit up. "What are you doing?" Jen realized too late that the worst thing she could do was open her mouth. When she started screaming at him, he grabbed her and started pleasuring himself. She tried to push away from him, but his grip was too strong. The tapping seemed to upset him more than anything else. "SHHH, be a merciful beauty," Donald told her as he continued to work. With tears streaming down her face, Jen realized he was too strong and was afraid she might make him mad if she kept hitting him. She had no idea what might happen then. Resigned that this would happen, she stopped fighting him and gripped his forearms, pulling outwards to get him not to squeeze her head so hard. He loosened his grip a little and continued what he had started. I can't believe he's doing this. Jen always liked to please Stan, but she could never push herself. Stan never tried to get her to do more. About Donald, he didn't care what she felt. What's wrong with me, she thought as she realized that Donald was enjoying himself. Jen let go of his wrists and slipped under her clothes. If this keeps up, I'll be satisfied, she thought. Donald released her head. It took Jen a few seconds to understand why he had stopped. She was disappointed and a little confused. Donald hasn't had any fun yet, so why did he stop? She looked up to see a big smile on his face and tried to figure out what he wanted. Now it's your turn, he said, looking at her. He reached out and pushed her hands away to feel her. It hurts, she tried to say. He continued to pull her, and Jen leaned forward to relieve some of the pressure. By doing this, she made Donald more comfortable. He pushed her back again. He wants me to work now. She realized she began to do what he wanted. Donald just held her, moving his hands back and forth to keep the pressure on. Jen realized that she started to do it better and better. Donald began to tremble, and she knew that he was about to enjoy himself. An unexpected thought flashed through her head. I want to try this. She always denied this to Stan. She worked harder, and the satisfaction came. Jen did what she set out to do. When he was satisfied, he pushed himself away from her and got dressed. Thanks, pretty lady. Can I have a popsicle now? Sure, Donald. Do you know where they are? Mommy keeps them in the freezer, he said with a smile and ran into the kitchen to grab one. He ran back and held up a red one. This is my favorite. He returned to the couch and sat down, ignoring her, eating his popsicle and watching cartoons. Jen shook her head, trying to reconcile the almost childlike behavior with what he had just forced her to do. She got up and stumbled a little bit before getting to the bathroom door. You okay, pretty lady? Donald asked. He had stopped watching cartoons and eating his popsicle and was looking at Jen with concern. You just forced me again, baby, she thought. Jen also realized that although he scared her, she didn't hate him. So all she said was, I'm okay, Donald. My foot just went to sleep while I was sitting on the love seat. Finish your popsicle so you can go to bed. She closed the bathroom door and looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were puffy and mascara was smeared across her face. Her lips were red and her shirt was stained and her yoga pants were wet. Jen took off her shirt to see herself. She was shocked to see his red handprints on her. I didn't realize he had grabbed them that hard, she thought. Looking at herself in the mirror, she began to rub the spots. How good is that, she thought, enjoying herself. Jen was enjoying herself so much that she grabbed onto the bar to keep herself from falling. When it was over, she cleaned herself up as best she could and left the bathroom. She was relieved Camilla was not home yet and saw Donald asleep on the couch, the empty popsicle wrapper on the coffee table. Jen quietly opened the door and went home to change quickly. She had just gotten back on the love seat when she heard a key in the door. Camilla opened the door and put her backpack on the table. Jen got up and went into the kitchen. Any problems with Donald? Camilla asked. I have to tell her what happened, Jen thought. She needs to know. She opened her mouth and was surprised at what came out. He was an angel. He watched TV, and I gave him a popsicle. The poor boy fell asleep on the couch after he finished it. I knew you two would hit it off. I am so relieved, Camilla said. Camilla looked at Jen more closely. Oh shit, she just realized I had changed my outfit, Jen thought. Time to head off any questions. I did have a little accident. Donald fell asleep eating his popsicle. I spilled some of it on my clothes when I picked it up. He was asleep, so I ran down the hall and changed. I hope you don't mind I left him for a few minutes, Jen said, looking down. Camilla chuckled. No, sweetie, I don't mind. Once that boy goes to sleep, it takes a lot to wake him up. I am sorry you messed up your outfit, though. The least I can do is get that stain out for you. Why don't you bring it over, and I will wash it? Jen was surprised by the offer and realized that Camilla would know she had lied if she brought that outfit over before she cleaned it. "It's okay, Camilla. It's not the first time I have gotten something on my clothes. I'm sure it will come out." "I guess it's not, sweetie. If you change your mind or it won't come out, let me know." "I will. How did the interview go?" Jen asked, changing the conversation. "He will let me know later in the week. I hope I get the position. It is more responsibility and a lot more money if it does. Please let me know how it turns out." Jen said as she walked to the door. "I will. If it does, I might need a sitter a couple of nights a week." Camilla said as she opened the door for Jen to leave. "There is no fucking way I am watching the little monster any," Jen thought, but found herself saying, "Well, if you can't get anyone else, let me know, and I will try to help you out." "I will. Donald seems to have taken a liking to you. How much do I owe you?" "Nothing, Camilla. I was happy to help." "Nonsense, dear. I don't feel right about not paying you for taking care of Donald. Here, I know it's not much," Camilla said as she handed Jen 3 $10 bills. Jen hesitated, but seeing the look on Camilla's face, she didn't want to insult her. She took the $30 from her and put it into her pocket. "You didn't have to, but thank you. Have a nice evening, and thanks again," Camilla said as she shut the door. Safely back in her apartment, Jen pulled the money out, shaking her head. "I guess this makes me a cheap whore." Locking the door behind her, she started crying at the kitchen table. After about 10 minutes, she was cried out and went into the bathroom to clean up her face. She looked in the mirror and thought, "What am I doing? I can't allow this anymore." She took off her clothes and looked at her bruises in the mirror. "Good thing Stan is gone for a few days. I can't explain how I got these bruises." She touched the bruises and twisted them. "How it hurts." Jen put some lotion on her hands and gently rubbed it into the bruise. As she ran her hands over her skin, a shiver ran down her spine, making her gasp with excitement. "That hurts," she thought, twisting the bruises. Jen could feel herself getting excited. The more she hurt her bruises, the more excited she became. Jen realized that while the pain helped, it wasn't enough to bring pleasure. She began to please herself. "Oh," she chanted, mocking her body. She was slowly getting closer to satisfaction. As she climaxed, she lost control and fell to the floor, her head just missing, hitting the toilet. Jen didn't know how long she lay there, but she slowly came back to herself. She got up from the floor and looked at herself in the mirror. Her bruises only increased. "I don't look too good," she thought as she took a towel from the basket and cleaned up the mess on the vanity and floor before taking a long, hot shower. After her shower, she combed her hair and dressed for bed when her phone rang. "This is Stan and he wants to video chat," Jen thought. Glancing in the mirror, she only looked tired and answered the phone. An image of Stan popped out of his hotel room. "Hi, beauty." "Hi, Stan." A look of concern crossed his face. "Are you okay, babe?" "Yeah, just tired. It's been a long day and I slept poorly last night." Both statements were factual, and she hoped he wouldn't try digging any more than that. Jen hated lying, but telling him what was happening would crush him. It was crushing her, and she didn't know how to deal with it either. "You sure, babe? You look like you have the flu or something." "No, I think it's just lack of sleep and maybe allergies." He didn't look convinced, but he let it go. "If you want, I can let you go. I want to talk to you for a few minutes at least, but yes, I don't feel like staying up any longer tonight." Stan was worried about Jen, but she was a big girl. Whatever was bothering her, she would just have to work up to telling him. They talked a little bit about their day and said good night. Jen crawled into bed and tried to sleep. She tossed and turned all night, dreaming of Donald forcing her to please him for hours. He was hard on her. She woke up drenched in sweat to find her clothes soaked. She got out of bed and went to the bathroom to clean herself. "How painful it is. I hope I didn't do anything," Jen said aloud as she gently wiped herself off. She changed clothes, crawled into bed, and fell asleep.
Subscribe to our channel so that your second C gaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.